Hello, and welcome to the Lone Star Collective, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective. I'm your host, Chris Grisolia, and I am joined this week by our very special guest, Joseph McCrary. Welcome, Joseph.
Yes, everybody calls me Joe Mac.
Joe Mac. I can guess that from the McCrary, the Mac on the McCrary, right?
That's right.
All right. So, Joe Mac, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and what your involvement's been in with, the whole cannabis scene and all that good stuff.
My pleasure. Again, thank y'all for having me. Good evening. Again, my name is Joe Mack. I am the Georgia advocate, one of the many Georgia advocates here down south in the state of Georgia advocating for cannabis reform. Most recently, I've been the former communications director for Peachtree NORML. That was during 2020. I've also was an intern for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus here because I also got my master's from here at Georgia State University. And now I've been affiliated with the Student for Sensible Drug Policy, the SSDP. So they have a chapter at Georgia State. So I've been picked as their advisor. So I've been working along with students along that lines of keeping them educated, aware of drug policy, drug changes, because we know that at that prime stage in their lives, that's when they are experiencing and learning many things outside of books and academia. So one of those things is to help them stay aligned, at least stay aware of what the choices that they're making and what they're doing, so they can stay, on top and stay aware and avoid potential dangers, with that. But again, prior to that, I'm a Southern boy. Like I said, I was born and raised in Macon, Georgia. I lived here and there, been back in Atlanta for about 20 years. So I'm just a family man down the line. But yes, I do advocate for cannabis. For those who know me, I've been advocating for well over almost 20 years. Most recently publicly, in almost 7-8 years. The thing that kind of got me going was the headlines when California proposition was announced back in 2014 when they went recreational, adult use. Yeah. And they made national headlines and everything and such. So I kind of I was at the internet. I was working in a computer lab, and I just let me just start digging and see what's wrong with Georgia. What's up? How how come we can't? How can we how can we be down? How can we get some of that? So, so that what kind of started my dig, as far as other organizations, the Peachtree NORML chapter, different advocates. So during this time, I was able to speak at the one of the first town hall meetings for the Capitol regarding low THC oil, because we are a medical state. And just to fast forward, we've been working with that for about almost 8 years since our governor approved of that. So now we actually have dispensaries where our patients can go and purchase medical cannabis. So that is one of the most recent updates for the state of Georgia. And there's been some, hearsay saying, Georgia's going to be one of the last places to get legal, at least medical cannabis or any kind of reform. But those people, I don't know where they are. I don't know if they fight along with us, as far as getting some actual changes done, because we do have some cannabis friendly, 420 friendly politicians under a gold dome here in the state. It's just that, priorities, we're kind of down the line as far as things goes, but we try our best to, whenever they open the stage and they invite the public to come in and speak and things like that, we try to make sure we have a presence there as well, along with the issues going on with the state. So we're just trying to catch up, and, because we see as a wave coming, the South is an open market for cannabis reform. We're right above Florida and not too far from Virginia. So, and we, like I said, that's right next to the DMV market, and they're changing. So yeah, I call it like a wave effect, like a blob. It's going to make it not matter if, it just when.
Yeah. That's kind of the same thing we say here in Texas. So I got to ask you, because I'm not really that familiar with Georgia's situation. Is there any kind of medical program at all in Georgia at this point, or tell me where y'all are at exactly?
Medical program stands as such. We have a list of conditions that your physicians have to approve of before you can be, qualified to be administered the low THC percentage oil that we're getting, that our patients can get now.
So kind of like Texas.
Yeah, very active. Actually, very similar to Texas. Believe it or not, I believe you have Good Blend, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Good Blend, Satera, and Parallel. They're all under the same umbrella. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you prior to this, but their headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. I did not know that, but yeah, we have Good Blend Texas is one of the active dispensary organizations here in Texas, providing meds to teacup patients. That's what our program's called, Texas Compassionate Use Program, or teacup for short.
Correct.
And, but yeah, it's a little better than just oil now. That's the way it started out. You know, that's the only way they could manufacture medicine. Now they do have some edibles and drinks, and besides the tinctures, and even I think Good Blend even has a chocolate bar out now, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, it's still restricted by a list of conditions that has to be one of the approved conditions, not by doctors, but by the legislature, which is kind of ludicrous, but
correct. You know, only have to, you know, if you're not diagnosed with that, you know, on those qualifying conditions, then you're kind of stuck on the other end of the pharmaceutical, circle. So the race. So it's a struggle, but we are making progress. You know, any forward progress is good progress.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we didn't really make any progress here in Texas this go around. I don't know if you followed our most recent legislative session, but we had some good bills. We had some good decriminalization bills. We had a good expansion for the teacup program that would have basically done away with the THC cap in a way that it transformed it, not necessarily done away with it, but it would have transformed it to a volumetric dosing based on 10 milligrams. So that would have been a major plus. Plus, they were going to add chronic pain, which would have been a major plus, right? So, but you know, we had. I don't know if you've kept up with Texas politics. Obviously, being in Georgia, I wouldn't keep up with Texas politics. But
if you've been watching the news, a lot of eyes are on Georgia right now. So
yeah, a lot of eyes are on Texas too. And as far as the cannabis scene is concerned, a lot of people say that when Texas goes, the nation will go on the federal level. But at any rate, what I was trying to say was we had a surplus in budget funds from the last budget cycle. So the governor was adamant that we were going to do some kind of property tax relief, which I'm not complaining. We desperately needed it here in Texas. But he didn't get what he wanted in the regular session. So pretty much all our bills died, you know, in the session. They got through the House, but didn't make it anywhere in the Senate because they were too busy arguing over how to give the citizens this property tax relief that the governor promised, you know, when he ran for re-election. So, and they got it through, but it took them, I think, the second special session, they finally got the property tax relief stuff done. So, nothing else really got done, nothing big anyway. But still, we keep saying, and we keep wanting to put out there to our audience too, even though we didn't make any forward progress, we didn't move backwards on anything, you know, because we have the legal hemp market that's flourishing, which I want to kind of get into here in a little bit. We're fixing to have to take a sponsor break here in just a minute, but I want to talk about, you know, what is the experience with the legal hemp market and everything in Georgia as compared to what it is here in Texas right now, and all that kind of good stuff. Because I'm interested to see what's happening in other states. You know, that's what a lot of people don't understand. It changes from state to state. Excuse me. You know, you cross the state line and things are totally different, right? So we're going to take a quick sponsor break, and when we get back, we're going to do just that. We're going to dive into the whole legal hemp market situation and compare kind of notes on Georgia versus Texas right after this sponsor break.
We welcome everyone to the 2023 Texas Marijuana March and Freedom Festival on Saturday, October 14th in downtown Fort Worth at Burnett Park. Come join other Texans as we march against bad cannabis laws, exercising our First Amendment rights.
Howdy, Colt Power here. These days, many people are choosing to add CBD to their wellness routine. Why? Some like CBD for how it may help them with their focus. Others enjoy the way the plant compound may assist them with their sore muscles and relaxation. For me, CBD has been a game changer in keeping my old sports injuries managed so I can work out and be present for my family. If you've ever been curious about CBD, I invite you to check out our Texas-grown, Texas-made products at powerbiofarms.com. That's power, BIOPHARMS.com.
Thrive Apothecary offers an experience truly unique from anything else in Texas. A full-service cannabis solution that is doctor-owned and offers customers every level of cannabis legally available in Texas. From traditional CBD products to emerging hemp-derived THC edibles, smokables, and now medical cannabis. As a licensed medical cannabis provider, prospective patients from anywhere in Texas can book a sponsored online eligibility consultation to determine if they qualify for a medical marijuana prescription from the comfort of their own home. Visit thrivetx.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Lone Star Collective podcast, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective, distributed on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more, to give Texans information regarding policy, industry, and culture. And now, back to this week's show.
Welcome back to the Lone Star Collective, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective. I'm your host, Chris Grisolia, and I'm joined this week by our special guest, Joe Mack, Joseph McCrary, of former member, well, you're still a member of Peachtree NORML, I guess. You're just the former communications director, right?
Correct. Yes.
We were talking about before we went to the break about the legal hemp market, and originally we were talking about the differences between, or the similarities between, Georgia and Texas medical programs. Now I want to kind of talk about the hemp derived cannabinoid market in Georgia and kind of compare notes and see if that's comparable to what we got here in Texas. What if any hemp derived cannabinoid market is there in Georgia right now?
There is a hemp-derived market in Georgia because, the Farm Bill, opened the doors for them, it created doors for innovation. So we have pilot grows, we have people who operate at farms throughout the state. Of course, they, vary licenses purchases depending on your acreage. There was at one point, there was a marketing saying like, hey, you only get $50 for 1 acre of hemp, but that just gets your attention, but you had to buy a minimum amount. It was like, at least 100 of the acres of 50, not 100 acres, but it was a considerable amount you had to buy. That was just the minimum of $50 for 1 acre. But approaches towards hemp has been very good. Businesses have been opening up. People have taken advantage of entrepreneurship as far as hemp derived, cannabinoids products. And as long as it falls under the percentage guidelines, set up by the Farm Bill, it is a legitimate business, legitimate market. We have, stores that actually sell hemp products. It will say it on the label, say it on the packaging, from pre-rolls, just as well as just other, items such as that you will see in the dispensary, edibles, treats, and as such. So we do have a very open hemp market. So once go through the process, applying the application, paying the fees, make sure you have all the, the processes and all the utilities. The cool, you have the environment, you have the accessories, you have the tools, you have the infrastructure to support it. And then you go through the cycle. Then yes, you can operate a hemp farm here in the state of Georgia. So yes, we do have that. And I think the only struggles that we've having so far is getting, having more processors and having more, ability to do more with it, because it's still limited to certain areas because they've been watching our state climate. It changes, but we do have an ideal climate for operating hemp as well as cannabis. We do a lot of outdoor grows. So we have some going in the northeast part of the state, in the eastern part, coastal part of the state, and we do have grows going in the southern part of the state. So all in all, yes, hemp is going good here.
Yeah, that sounds almost identical to what we got here in Texas. The only thing I would have to say I question is, you're talking about hemp derived as Delta 9, less than 0.3% by dry weight, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so what about Delta 8, Delta 10, HHC, all those derivatives that seem to be circulating around the country pretty thoroughly, along with the hemp derived Delta 9, and then also one of the newest things to the market here in Texas is THCA flower that's being sold in like the CBD stores and whatnot. Do y'all have that out there in Georgia as well?
If it is, they don't know. I mean, actually, speaking personally, a lot of things are out there.
Yeah.
But as far as what's allowed,
Sure.
Delta 8, which is actually sitting on the fence. There's been some talk about, cracking down on that because it's, people are saying that it creates a loophole for selling other non-approved cannabis products. So, stuff that's beyond not approved under the Farm Bill. So they're really trying to crack down. Like I said, the people are branching off, find those, they just said as long as it's not Delta 9 THC. They didn't say anything about Delta 8, Delta 10, like I said, THCO, TCA. So they're just taking advantage of that. They're really taking advantage of that and just going for it. So until then, as the way it goes, until they say it's illegal, it's pretty much going as standard, as a purchase goes.
It's like we like to refer to as what they call a gray area or what, whatever. It's, to me, all of those things are a little on the, of course, I'm not in the cannabis industry business wise, so I don't really have to worry about it, but I just think about it and I think, I used to be in retail management years ago. And I think, would I want to take that risk, and there are those out there that are doing it and not having any problems, but we have seen in recent months, we've seen some of these stores get visited by the authorities and have arrests made and, product confiscated, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's all in a matter of, I guess, in how much you want to take how big a risk you want to take, I guess is the way to put it.
Correct.
But yeah, I'm thinking for states like Georgia and Texas that we're kind of in the same boat there, that we're kind of all in that realm of playing in that gray area of the law until they finally come down with a decision and say yes or no, right?
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about the advocacy scene in Georgia. I mean, is there I don't know. I haven't seen any polls personally for the state of Georgia. What's the public opinion like? What kind of involvement do y'all get? Is it what you would expect, like average pretty much everywhere else, or?
Well, our official studies, which come out of our schools, universities, UGA, they do most of it, and that's who our politicians and leadership, follow. But yes, majority of the state is in favor of legalization in some form. They are in favor of decriminalization as well. We have politicians, senators. Actually, we have one strong candidate out in Augusta. He's been pitching statewide decriminalization for years. And he said, once we get that done, that will, alleviate some of the pressures and some of the issues we're having, across the board, with our relationships with our law enforcement and our economies, things like that, so we can move forward into other businesses, other ventures, other innovations, and things like that. So, and he's still there. Now, that's still one of his major goals. As far as other agendas and things and such goes, advocacy. We have different groups here, just to name a few. We have Peachtree NORML, SSDP, the Student System Drug Policy. We also have, there's some other newcomers up here that's been making waves. But like if there's a Georgia Chamber of Commerce, we have other institutions who have looked into advocacy for the state of Georgia, such as Emory. They've done YouTube, web sessions to educate the public on cannabis and what effects on the body. Different town halls, have happened in different parts of the city. It's there. Advocacy is there. But if I may say respectfully, we just need to be more collaborative, kind of work together, pull strings together, and try to focus on one common goal. So once we have the opportunity again, spot to speak on reform, we can have all agreeable, resounding, sound to them so they can hear it through, and that's pretty much where we are.
Yeah, that's I could say the same thing for Texas. I mean, it seems like I say this in every episode, but we have, poll after poll after poll after poll after poll that says over 80% are for expanding medical, full-blown medical with smokable products. And then like 67% are for full-blown legalization, just legalize it already. And, I can't help but continue to hammer home the one simple point that the state is great in size, not great necessarily, just great in size. Not saying Texas isn't great, because I do think it is. It's my home state, right?
Right.
But great in the fact of population, great in size. I mean, there's 29 million people in Texas. 67% is over 19 million people. That's not what we have involved in the cannabis scene in terms of advocacy. It's frustrating, so unfortunately, we're going to have to get ready to take another sponsor break right quick. But that kind of leads into where I want to go next. I want to get your ideas, especially being from another state. Maybe you've got some fresh ones for me that can help me wrap my head around on how I can change some of that, how we can possibly motivate people to get more involved. And I want to hear some of your ideas on that when we get back.
Sure thing.
All right. So with that, we're going to take a sponsor break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about the various things that they do in Georgia that maybe we can try here in Texas to get people more involved. Right after this.
We welcome everyone to the 2023 Texas Marijuana March and Freedom Festival on Saturday, October 14th in downtown Fort Worth at Burnett Park. Come join other Texans as we march against bad cannabis laws exercising our First Amendment rights.
Howdy, Colt Power here. These days, many people are choosing to add CBD to their wellness routine. Why? Some like CBD for how it may help them with their focus. Others enjoy the way the plant compound may assist them with their sore muscles and relaxation. For me, CBD has been a game changer in keeping my old sports injuries managed so I can work out and be present for my family. If you've ever been curious about CBD, I invite you to check out our Texas-grown, Texas-made products at powerbiofarms.com. That's power, BIOPHARMS.com.
Thrive Apothecary offers an experience truly unique from anything else in Texas. A full-service cannabis solution that is doctor-owned and offers customers every level of cannabis legally available in Texas. From traditional CBD products to emerging hemp-derived THC edibles, smokables, and now medical cannabis. As a licensed medical cannabis provider, prospective patients from anywhere in Texas can book a sponsored online eligibility consultation to determine if they qualify for a medical marijuana prescription from the comfort of their own home. Visit thrivetx.com for more information.
Welcome back to the Lone Star Collective podcast, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective, distributed on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more, to give Texans information regarding policy, industry, and culture. And now, back to this week's show.
Welcome back to the Lone Star Collective, the official podcast of the Texas Cannabis Collective. I'm your host, Chris Grisolia, and I'm joined this week once again by Joe McCrary of Georgia NORML. Welcome back.
How you doing?
Pretty good. When we went to the break, we were starting to talk about the whole advocacy scene in Georgia and kind of comparing Texas and whatnot. What are some of the ways what are some of the ideas maybe that you have that ways we can try to garner more support and get more active support, more vocal support in the whole cannabis advocacy scene? What are some of the things y'all do out there in Georgia?
Well, I will say two things to answer that question. Two ways. I see that the best way to communicate advocacy now is social media, internet, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those digital platforms, because that is the age we live in now. Even what we're doing right now, this is actually, once you make the edit of the video and put it out there on your platform, that's the way that information is put out there. So, and that's how the youth, the new generation, gets their information. They get their data. So in a way that we can present it, condense it, get it to them, it's the new way of word of mouth. And also just kind of more collaborative once we get that part taken care of, once you get the word out in a way that they can, receive and actually follow and come to those town hall meetings, come to those events, that's when you collaborate and bring in other guests, other advocates, for other areas, to kind of flesh out, bridge ideas, bounce up ideas, and to see what things, what strengths can be brought together, to build on it. Because like I said, right now we're in Peachtree NORML. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia. We do have a South Georgia, Middle Georgia NORML, but we do not have one in Savannah. We do not have one in Columbus. We do not have anything on the other sides of the state. So really? Kind of like, so we kind of disjoint on that end. So it's left up to the individual advocates or, the groups in those sections of the state, to kind of make their voice known in their region, as far as getting cannabis reform and under their own name, under their own banner, so that's just one example. But as far as Georgia goes here, we do have some events. People do look at Georgia as an event place. We've had a couple, unfortunately due to, the whole shutdown, it slowed down quite a bit, but things are picking back up. We used to have several events, at least about 3 events, at least 2, but 3 events within a year's time. But now, we're beginning to pick back up. We have something coming up in October. Different little events popping up in the city by the individuals. So, but I meant to say this before during the break, our legislative session is only 40 days. So we know it's not everybody else follows that same, legislative, calendar.
Yeah, that's crazy. I did see that when I was kind of getting ready for the show, and I was like, what? Because we complain about in Texas, ours is only 120 days, but that's every 2 years though in Texas.
Ooh.
So we only get a shot every 2 years. So
but you get what, 4 months to try it though, Wow.
40 days is just blows my mind.
Oh yeah, that's us, man. That's us, January to April. That's it. This is only a season. They treat it like football season.
It's a short football season too. I mean, criminy, there's no preseason or nothing. They call special sessions and extended sessions for things that they want to, for things that they really need to. But other than that, it's 40 days. Yeah, that's like in Texas. They're not going to call a special session over marijuana. It's not going to happen.
Well, you get it.
Yeah.
The way that, I used to say this about Georgia, as far as the overall mindset of, being open to change and reform and things like that. I think overall, like our leaders and leaders of the state feel like if we do anything against what federally, we're going to get the spank. We're going to get a really big spanking, from the big federal government for not following their rules, So to stay on their good graces.
That's the same thing I keep telling people. It's a theory that I have. It's my theory. It's not anything anybody of any knowledge has given me or anything. It's just my own knowledge, my own way of thinking. But Texas, Texas is a unique state in the fact we don't have a state income tax.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we pay less income tax than anybody else in any other state that does have a state income tax. What that means is we pay more to the federal government, and the federal government turns around and gives Texas their money, right? That's kind of the way it works here. Whereas the state that has state income tax, you pay less federal income tax than we do here in Texas or any other state. There's only a few that don't have a state income tax, but you pay less into federal because you're paying that state income tax. And the federal government doesn't fund the state near as much as like they do Texas, you know? So that's what I keep telling everybody is Texas is kind of, one of the reasons why I think they're standoffish is because they're afraid they're going to get their funding cut. You know, oh, wait a minute, you're going against federal law.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, which, you know, they don't mind doing on some things, but not cannabis.
Yeah, I think you said the key word, funding. I think that's the key word. That, you know,
it's all about the almighty dollar, no matter what anybody.
Yeah, so you know, either stay on the right, stay on the straight and narrow, and keep getting the big boy money, and don't take any chances. Stay safe. So until we get some different leadership, you know, again, but we do have some younger politicians. Again, we have some younger politicians that have been coming in. You know, our last couple of bills that have been presented in the House by Republicans, and they just went ahead and said, hey, let's do statewide legalization. Let's go for it. You know, I was like, okay, you know, and he made headlines, you know, just for presenting it, and, you know, not knowing how serious or how much strength it had to fly, you know, how strong the wings to fly, but just the fact that he, you know, put his head together to put the words on paper to be presented, you know, that's enough, you know. So again, it's there, it's floating around. So again, we just have to kind of wait our turn, you know, to make our case, to let it be known. And again, as far as like I said, we're a state of 10 million people, where most of us, half of it, reside in the city of Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. So we have everybody else is outside, you know, spread across the state. So again, it's more to Georgia than just Atlanta. You know, Atlanta just known as the capital. But you know, just to get back on the advocacy part, you know, people are looking at Georgia. People write about Georgia. You know, whenever we have businesses coming to Georgia, one thing I said before, I say it like this: we missed the opportunity during the Super Bowl because that's when we had we had LA and Boston. You know, that when the LA played the Patriots here at Super Bowl here in Atlanta. I said we kind of dropped the ball there. We had two cannabis-friendly states visiting Georgia, and if we just had two dispensaries, they would have sold out.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, you know. To me, when you hear the numbers of people, and I'm sure it's comparable in Georgia, the number of people that want it to happen, versus the number of people that actually get actively involved. And you know, the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people are just scared. They're just flat out scared to get involved because, you know, they don't want a target on their back and don't want to be that person, you know, that the cop can look over and go, oh, that's that guy that support, you know what I mean? It's
that pothead, the weed supporter. I mean, that the stigma is still there.
And the sad part about it is that don't happen. I don't know about in Georgia, but that don't really happen.
No, nobody that I've seen get shunned, you know, for that, unless it's your job or you are really you have to be responsible, you know, something like that. But I mean, if you are in that, if you are not in that line of work or responsibility where you're free to, you know, not just cannabis, but you can smoke cigarettes and drink on your own free time, and you just so happen to indulge in cannabis with that, you know, she had to knock them down. You know, you let those first two slide, but then the third one, you be like, no, you want to chop them down. Like, no, it's really, it's all under the same umbrella, really. You know, most states, most legal states put cannabis under the alcohol tobacco department.
Well, I can tell you this much too. In that whole package you put together there for those 3 items, there's only one of them that has medical properties.
There you go.
I mean, alcohol, yeah, it does from an antiseptic perspective.
It has to be prescribed to you in a certain amount.
But you know what I mean? Yeah, but there's no comparison there. And tobacco, most assuredly, doesn't have any medical benefits.
No.
I smoked tobacco for 35 plus years, and I wish I hadn't.
I will say this to you. That needs to be one of our pitches. Now, I will say this as well. I don't know if you remember the Truth Act, all those truth campaigns, those orange banners trying to get people to anti-smoking campaigns, yada, yada, yada. Just to fast forward right quick, they were sued. Those tobacco companies were sued for saying basically getting minors hooked on tobacco and buying cigarettes. They advertised to minors, so they got sued for that. And some of that got repaid out. You can look this up. And some states won that, and Georgia was one of the recipients of that, over a year's time, X million amount of dollars because of that. And because, like you said, tobacco, nicotine, smoke, even vaping now.
Yep.
E-cigarettes, all that is being looked at ways to decrease your life. It's taking years off your life. So I would just say this to everybody that listens out there, for all the advocates here, West Coast, East Coast, whoever's listening. If you really want to make a pitch to your politicians, your leaders about cannabis reform, I would say start with that. Get your people off cigarettes and get your people off these pills. Let cannabis heal them.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to about do it for us there, Joe Mack. I unless you got a whole lot more you want to talk about, that we hadn't already covered in terms of Georgia and getting involved and all that good stuff. But give us some final thoughts you got before we go on the whole Georgia scene, because I'm sure we're probably going to hit a few people out in Georgia. But, it compares to Texas as well. So give us your final thoughts on the whole advocacy scene and what we need to do to keep progressing this message forward.
As one of our past leaders for Peachtree NORML, Sharon, and God bless his soul, Tom, and said, once we're talking, we're winning. As long as we keep the conversations going, as long as it doesn't die within us, it won't die in front of them. Just keep it going. If those compassionate people who have a purpose with it, people who have helped, let those people speak, let those people get a platform to let them know how much it's helped them. For those people who have been harmed by it, those people that have been, unjustly, criminalized, penalized for it, if they have no other issues going on with them, let those people go out, be part of the workforce, let them reform, let them be better, let them improve themselves. And again, the youth is right behind us. They're looking at what we're doing. And if we're not doing it right, they're going to just make the same mistakes we're making. So again, go to the youth, educate them, make sure they know what they're doing, what's out there. Help them make the right decision, let them know what's best for them. If they want to choose to, go into the cannabis industry, learn as much as you can, do as much research, meet, go out, visit, go to NYC, go to the National Cannabis Festival in DC, visit, meet people, learn, inform yourself, educate yourself, so you can be the better advocate to help others.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for joining us. I love it when we have an advocate on that has the energy that you have, because that's the kind of thing we need to see. And you're absolutely right. The stories, the people with stories, they matter because they touch hearts and change minds, right? And then I also want to point out though that even if you don't have a story, if it's not helping you, but you just support it, just simply pick up the phone when it's time, and I'm sure Peachtree NORML does a good job, just like all the other NORML organizations, telling everybody when it's time to get involved and take actions, etc. Send emails, whatnot. Pick up the phone and say, I support this bill, that bill. That's all it takes. 5 minutes, folks. 5 minutes, right?
Full disclosure. Again, this is what drives me so much. Again, with the young folk, the college mind, the young people. I was kicked out of my first school for cannabis, college. And I had an option to go back. but they would place me under suspension to the point where I just had to go to class and that's it.
Yeah.
No call probation. So, I mean, I was good at school. I was doing good grades. I just made a bad decision.
Yeah.
And it cost me. Now, luckily, I was able to continue my studies and graduate at another school. Rival school, but I was able to complete that. So just giving hope to those people. I know my story translates to a lot of people who may have been get kicked out of high school or kicked out of college or kicked out of something because of their cannabis use. Yeah. So that's what drives.
That's the number one thing is what should never been illegal in the first place. But the second to that is what you just said, of how it ruins people's lives because they maybe make a one-time mistake. You know, they didn't think about something before they did it or this, that, and other because of these crazy laws of prohibition. It shouldn't be there in the first place.
Right. You know, have to decriminalize, you know, lessen the penalties. Not everybody's out there trying to be the big, the next big drug kingpin. You have those people who just experimented, and you have those people in between. You know, some people just like it. But they're not trying to sell to you. Not trying to sell to the kids. They're not trying to put in Halloween candy. So,
that cracks me up. Then you brought it up, so now I got to talk about it. Face it, we're approaching Halloween pretty quick here, so we're going to be hearing it all.
There you go. All right. There we go.
So we might as well talk about it. It cracks me up. The law enforcement agencies, the city agencies, and everybody else, and the prohibitionists that are still around that get out on social media and post all the stuff about people putting cannabis in their trick-or-treat candy and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Nobody's wasting their money like that.
Thank you. I'm about to say that's a lot of waste. I mean, I don't know. Somebody's being very generous.
No. I mean, now if they are, it's a private party scenario, and it's not what they're handing out to children.
And it's adults only. No kids are around that part. But yes, yeah.
I mean, but these people put it out there like, oh my word, it's going to be all over the streets because the potheads are everywhere.
It's the fear that drives it. It's the fear. Fear drives emotion drives behavior. So it's going to be, until they.
Like we were talking about in the pre-show, there's that old, like I said, I still can't think off the top of my head who it was a politician or a politician's wife. I can't remember who said it, but we can use that same type of motivation against them with our education, agitation, and motivation on the cannabis front.
That's right.
If we educate people to the lies that were told in the beginning and the reality to the fact that it is a medicinal product, we can agitate them to how they've been lied to by the federal government, because nobody likes that, right? Which will hopefully motivate them to get involved, right? Educate, agitate, and motivate. That's our main theme here. So I want to thank you again, Joe. I want to thank you again, Joe, for joining us. It's been a real excellent conversation. We could probably talk for hours, I'm afraid, but they'll get mad at me if I do that.
No. Well, we could probably do this again if that's all right with you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And sorry about the previous incident. I appreciate we were able to reschedule. But yeah, Texas. I like Texas. I got people in Texas, Pflugerville. I was in Houston not too long ago. So yeah.
All right, good deal. I used to live in Houston. Lived in Houston for 2.5 years myself, so I got some people down there too. Thanks again for joining us. And like I say, if you want to come back, after the next legislative session or during and talk about what's going on in Georgia, feel free.
Sure will. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again.
All right.
That's going to do it for you too. That's going to do it for our show this week, folks. And as always, we want to thank you for joining us and come back and see us again.